If you could ask one question without limits into this microphone and be given the absolute truth, what would you want to know? Take this episode of Futurama, for example. For the past 1,000 years, nearly every single piece of data and information in the entire universe has been collected and stored in the infosphere, a database designed to learn everything. And now, it has finally learned the last piece of data there is to know. And the brain spawn plans to destroy the universe so no new information arises. Just as Fry begins to feel unimportant and useless, he is informed he's actually the single most important person in the universe because his special brainwaves go undetected by the brain spawn and make him immune to their power. So being the chosen one, he sets off to destroy the infosphere before it destroys the universe. As he's about to successfully complete the job, he realizes at his fingertips is the answer to any question he can possibly fathom, even ones considered to be unanswerable, like what's the meaning of life? But Fry's the chosen one for a reason and asks the even more brilliant question of,
is it true that postage stamp glue is made of
toad mucus?
The Niblonians were horrified that the brain spawn were going to know everything, and the infosphere's plan after learning everything was to destroy all life in the universe to ensure nothing new would happen. Self-learning AI is quickly becoming a possibility, but from this example, is it even worth it to know absolutely everything? Leaving me asking, from delivery boy to space delivery boy. When a man named Fry arrives at a cryogenic lab to deliver a pizza, he realizes the order was a prank call, and depressingly sits down to celebrate the 2000 New Year alone, but he falls into a cryogenic pod, accidentally freezing himself for 1,000 years. Time transitions and old New York becomes new New York. When Fry awakens, he looks out the window in awe as he realizes just how far in the future he's gone. The fate assignment officer, Leela, informs him he has one living relative, his distant nephew, Hubert J. Farnsworth, and states she has to implant a chip in him with his permanent career assignment of
delivery boy.
Horrified at the idea of essentially reliving his old life, he runs out of the lab and escapes through the city's futuristic transportation system, leading him to meet a robot named Bender. After they do some stuff I can't talk about because YouTube's watching me, they decide to get a drink together, but are quickly found by Leela and flee together through the head museum. They hide in the ruins of old New York, but are soon caught again. However, realizing Fry's situation is similar to her own, Leela gives in, breaks the law, and removes her own career chip as they set off together as fugitives to meet Fry's nephew. Well, it just so happens, Hubert Farnsworth owns a spaceship he uses to run his intergalactic delivery company, and he's in need of a new crew, with his old crew's career chips still in possession. Thus, Fry happily goes, imagine in this box existed a parallel universe to ours, but the you that lived there did the exact opposite for every major decision you've ever made. Who would that person be? Take this episode of Futurama, for example. When the professor creates a seemingly ordinary but mysterious box, Leela discovers an entire alternate universe inside, and the crew meets each of their counterparts. As they become acquainted, it is revealed they've all decided their fate for every major life decision with a coin toss. But in each case, the results of the flips were opposites for Universe A than for Universe 1. Listen, they came up with the names, not me. For example, in Universe 1, Leela ran out of excuses to reject Fry's proposals to finally go on a date with him. So she flipped a coin, it came up heads, and they went out. That small decision led them to eventually get married. But in Universe A, Leela flipped tails in the same situation, and now constantly comes up with fake excuses to not go out with Fry. This premise practically begs you to think about every time in your life you've made a major decision that was on the fence between two options. If there were an alternate universe to ours, similar to the scenario in this episode, and the other you made all the opposite choices that the you watching this video made, who would that person be? If you weren't aware it was the other you, do you think you would be friends with that person? There's no way to know for sure, but it's still fun to. The overwhelmingly emotional realization is, because Fry never left Leela's side and constantly spoke to her while she was in the coma, he literally saved her life. But how did this happen? When the crew goes on a mission to collect honey from giant deadly space bees, Fry sacrifices himself to save Leela and is killed by the bee's stinger. Leela is consumed with guilt and becomes addicted to the space honey they collected upon discovering 2 spoonfuls of it eases the pain and helps her sleep, but 3 would make her fall asleep forever. She starts having vivid dreams in which Fry is alive, but to Leela's dread, they always end by him telling her to wake up. Unable to continue enduring being separated from Fry, she decides to take 3 spoonfuls of the honey to never wake back up so she'll always be with him. But a picture of him interrupts her, pleading with her not to do it, and to just wake up. Suddenly, Leela awakens in a hospital bed. Fry is shown sobbing with matted hair and a scraggly beard while repeatedly begging her to wake up. It turns out, Leela has been in a coma for 2 weeks, and Fry never left her side, speaking to her so she would hear a familiar voice. Although the stinger went through Fry, it wasn't him who was injected with the venom, but Leela. The 3 spoonfuls of space honey during her coma was a metaphor for her body surrendering to the venom's effects, and the only thing that stopped Leela from taking the 3rd spoonful was Fry's pleas for her to wake up. So, one of the saddest endings to a show I've ever seen. A flashback shows that, contrary to Fry's assumption, Seymour faithfully obeyed his last command, and starting from the day Fry disappeared, the dog waited in front of Panucci's pizza for him for 12 years, until he eventually couldn't muster the strength to continue and lay down to eternally rest. When Fry takes Bender to a museum exhibit, he is shocked to find a fossilized dog on display, which he recognizes as his pet dog Seymour from over 1,000 years prior. Professor Farnsworth then examines Seymour's body and concludes that a DNA sample can be made to produce a clone, and it would be even possible to create Seymour's personality and memory. Fry begins to prepare for the dog, and Bender becomes jealous. Just when the professor is ready to clone Seymour, Bender arrives. Angry that Fry will not spend time with him, he grabs the fossil and throws it in a pit of lava, believing that destroying it will restore his friendship with Fry. However, Fry is furious at Bender and extremely upset at having lost Seymour. Bender realizes how much Seymour really means to Fry and apologizes for what he did. With this in mind, Bender dives into the lava and recovers the fossil. The professor begins the cloning process, and his computer informs him that Seymour died at the age of 15, meaning he lived 12 years after Fry was frozen. Upon realizing this, Fry aborts the cloning process, believing that Seymour must have moved on with his life, found a new owner, and forgotten about him. But this will lead to